Some sad news in the world of soccer today as Bobby Charlton, a legend in England, has passed away today. He was known as a great midfielder for the English national squad and Manchester United. He was born in Northumberland, England, October 1937, to a coal miner and his wife. He was related to several professional footballers on his mom's side of the family. He had four uncles that played soccer, including Jack Milburn, who was a legend for Leeds and Bradford. Anyhow, Charlton had much of his early development of his career to his grandfather and his mother. And people forget that Bobby Charlton had an older brother, Jack Charlton, who was also a professional soccer player. So anyway, a Man U scout found him as a 15-year-old, and Charlton went on to play for and as an amateur. All of that. He was professional by 1954 and was part of the Busby Babes, a collection of talented footballers who went through the system in Old Trafford to rebuild the club after the Second World War. He went through the pecking order, as he would usually do, and all of that. So he actually was also in the Army Corps. It actually meant that when he did his national service, he could play for Man U on the weekend. So anyway, he scored twice in his first year with Man U. And even had a hat trick against Charlton. Well, just twice on his debut, sorry. Man U won the league title, but did not win the FA Cup as they lost to Aston Villa. Charlton almost had to play between the posts after Man U goalie Ray Wood had a broken cheekbone. But it didn't matter. But Bobby Charlton was an established player and saw Man U become the first English team to compete in the European Cup, or Champions League as it's now known. So anyway, they got to the semifinals but lost to Real Madrid. But then the next season they got to the quarterfinals to take down Red Star Belgrade, and United had a gigantic win. That meant that they were going to the Final Four. Unfortunately, though, after the game against Red Star Belgrade, it was the famous Munich air disaster, because the airplane that took the United players home had to go to Munich to refuel and all that. But the worsening weather had happened and all that. But snow was heavily on the runway and around the airport. It was actually a little nervous and all of that. Unfortunately, though, as we all know, the plane clipped the fence at the end of the runway on its next takeoff attempt, and a wing tore through a nearby house, sending it a light. Unfortunately, the plane got cut in half. Charlton actually fell out of his cabin. Charlton actually thought he was dead, but thankfully, though, Harry Gregg, the United goalkeeper, saw him and dragged him away from the plane. As Bobby Charlton survived the Munich air disaster. Unfortunately, though, despite him only having cuts that had severe shock and being in hospital for a week, 7 of his teammates perished at the scene. He actually swapped seats with Tommy Taylor, who was a good Man U player, and that actually saved Charlton's life and all of that. So the 7 players were dead and all that. It was just terrible and all of that. On the 44 passengers and crew, 23 lost their lives. Charlton survived with minor injuries, and 8 other players survived. He got lucky and all of that. Of course, Man U had to regroup and all that. So, anyway, Man U almost won the FA Cup in '58 after the Munich disaster, but lost to Bolton. However, Charlton did get his FA Cup winners medal in 1963 after Man U beat Leicester. Busby's post-Munich rebuilding program had 2 championships within 3 seasons, and Bobby Charlton was there, and he helped Man U reach the 1968 European Cup/Champions League final, beating Benfica and becoming the first English squad to win. He lifted the trophy first. Charlton was livid, of course, because Man U was now actually trying to battle against relegation. Charlton left Man U at the end of the 73 season, scoring 249 goals in 758 appearances in League Cup and other competitions. That record was only broken in 2008 by Ryan Giggs in the Champions League final. Anyway, it was just huge and all that. Charlton was huge and all that for Man U, and did not play for any other club. Internationally, he actually played in qualifiers for the 62 World Cup and was named to the squad. Of course, England got their butts handed to them in 62. However, Charlton's role was actually from traditional inside forward to an attacking midfield player, and Sir Alf Ramsey wanted to help build the 66 World Cup team around him. And he was just putting up numbers and all of that. Charlton opened the scoring in the semi-finals against Portugal by having a crisp side-footed finish, and he scored another goal. So Charlton had 3 goals in the whole World Cup and all that. Bobby Charlton was basically man-marked by Franz Beckenbauer in the final against West Germany, but Charlton also cancelled Beckenbauer out. England won thanks to Geoff Hurst's hat-trick. So he was part of the 68 Euro squad and all that. And in 1969, he was given an OBE, Order of British Empire, for services to football. So he was made captain of the England squad for the 1970 World Cup. Unfortunately, in Colombia, before the World Cup happened in Mexico, he was involved in an incident in which he and Bobby Moore were accused of stealing a bracelet from a jewelry store. Moore was arrested and detained. Charlton was not arrested, but of course, there were questions about if that was just some kind of blackmail thing. Regardless of that, England did quite well. Charlton played in all of the group stages game and all of that. Charlton controversially was replaced in the quarterfinals against West Germany in the 69th minute, as Sir Alf Ramsey was hoping that England could hang on to their 2-1 lead and advance to the semi-finals against Italy. But unfortunately, Germany won it after extra time. Charlton decided to end his international career after the 1970 World Cup and all that. Charlton's England scoring record would stand for many years until Wayne Rooney scored a penalty in 2015. Soon he became Preston North End's manager in 1973. Unfortunately, though, there was a lot of problems. He was given a CBE, too. He would make some weird appearances and all that. All that. So anyway, personal life, he met his wife at an ice rink in 1959 and married in 1961, having 2 daughters. One who was a weather forecaster for BBC during the 1990s. Charlton said he actually had a long-running feud with his brother Jack, and they would rarely speak with each other. Anyway, Charlton was huge for Manchester. He was being called one of the greatest Man U players of all time, but definitely not. But anyway, his death